They're trying to change what our children think in the schools.
What would you like to see happen?
I'd like to get back like it was in the 60s.
Now, what's worth noting is back in the 50s and 60s, when people say it was great then, that was also before there was a labor surplus, right? The definition of late stage capitalism is when we have a labor surplus. So things were good then. If you were a middle class family, a white middle class family, you could raise a family, send them to college, and live a very comfortable life off of just a middle class income. That's gone away. We all know that. And my personal opinion is that conservatives, lack class consciousness. They don't have capitalism as their boogeyman. So it's like they're just feeling around in the dark, and they just misplace their anger and grab onto culture war nonsense because there's no class consciousness.
We've got to ask the question, how did we get here?
Late stage capitalism.
We go from crisis to crisis. Afghanistan, Ukraine, inflation, baby formula, bank runs. This wasn't happening during the 4 years of President Trump. It's happening now, and they want the narrative to be Biden saved the day. But the real narrative is Biden caused this, and but for the president of the United States, we would not be here.
And the prior 4 years, Jake, was a deviation from what the Obama administration enjoyed for 8 years, which was a cozy in-bed relationship with Silicon Valley that Biden has simply resurrected, right? So we know that the largest donorship to the vice president, to the president, includes those Silicon Valley sort of tech moguls, and especially in including the regulation favor that they've enjoyed for those 8 years and now for these 4. So to your point, they created entirely this landscape of dependency as well, I argue, culturally, because the reason that the risk assessment team was looking the other way the entire time at SVB was because they were too busy with the woke distraction to the right, and that's why they weren't prepared in all industries because of what this administration encourages.
What this administration encourages? Lady, this is what capitalism encourages. These are systems built on what we have today. What are you talking about?
It started last week with Silvergate Capital, a big player in the crypto industry. That market's recent collapse caused many of the bank's large customers to take out their money. Silvergate announced it would close its doors and sell whatever assets it had left. At the end of the week, those with large deposits in Silicon Valley Bank made big withdrawals based on fears SVB was running out of enough money to cover deposits. The fear fed on itself, and by Friday, the 16th largest bank in the nation could not keep up with the withdrawals and was seized by California regulators. Just 2 days later, New York state regulators shuttered Signature Bank, another victim of the crypto plunge.
And instead of doing honest reporting, you have right-wing grifters like Fox News saying that this is the problem of woke culture. And then you have them saying, what would fix this? More capitalism. All the while demonizing progressives like Bernie Sanders.
I hate this idea that it's somehow compassionate to have the kind of view that Bernie Sanders has. It's compassionate to maybe give people money. It's not compassionate to take people's money and then redistribute it because you believe that you know better how to spend it. That's not compassionate. That's being arrogant. And it's just a fact that capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty, market-based systems than any other system in the history of the world. So the capitalist view actually is the compassionate one.
You really have to admire Kat Timpf in her mental gymnastics, labeling capitalism as compassionate.
They're constantly going on about hate, how they're against hate, and we've got to stop hate and hate speech. It's in the title of his book. It's okay to hate capitalism. Apparently it's fine to hate as long as it's the right enemies.
The conservatives' immediate reaction to SVB failure is that it was a result of the bank focusing too much on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nothing about how mortgage-backed securities were purchased when interest rates were low and interest rates went up. These mortgage-backed securities were worthless. None of that. Capitalism is not working in the United States right now. It doesn't matter who the president is. Capitalism requires unlimited growth, constant growth, and is just going to blow up every 8 to 12 years. That's its function. So, to say like, what's this going on? Capitalism would work better with the other person, the other guy, the former guy, it's quite silly. Silicon Valley Bank failed because capitalism is failing.
The management of these banks will be fired. If the bank is taken over by FDIC, the people running the bank should not work there anymore. Third, investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works.
And all of a sudden, those high-flying Silicon Valley tech bros aren't so hot on capitalism after all. They've been demanding Biden and Democrats cover all of their losses, or they're threatening to start a bank panic. Suddenly, socialism is very on brand. And no one was madder than professional adult son, Donald Trump Jr. Jr. took to Twitter to slam Biden for the SVB meltdown, saying, quote, "I don't remember banks collapsing under Trump," and well, there's probably a lot you don't remember from those years, Junior. No worries, I'm more than happy to help. There were actually 16 bank failures during the Trump presidency, including a handful in the former president's adopted home state of Florida. Okay, you can go back to the party now, Junior. Or take this viral tweet. This guy is angry that so many of you are being mean to the banks. Shame on you. He claims that banks like SVB were responsible for the greatest level of wealth generation in American history. So let me just pop this little chart up here and ask our angry pal a question. The greatest level of wealth generation for who exactly? Because I'm no chart-reading genius, but those numbers only look great if you're at the very top. There's no big revelation here. We already know that deregulation leads to catastrophic failures like what we're seeing with Silicon Valley Bank. But until Democrats get serious about regulating our runaway financial industry, we can expect this won't be the last time I'm updating you on a banking crisis.